Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Pack Leader Podcast. Hard to believe it, but it's already episode number 5 of season 2. Brian Bland, how we doing?
Doing well. Into the second semester. Already got a lot under our belts in the semester, so let's dive in.
Yeah, let's dive in. But before we do, I want to say thank you to all of our Pin Pool members. Just to give you a quick update, we are finally over the 40 mark. We got 41 pins on the season as of yesterday, January 19th, 2023. And it's funny because Chris Walton leads the team with 5 pins, although he had a whole football season before he joined us.
Right. He definitely got a late start, but he has not missed many opportunities.
Yeah, and Asa Walton comes in a tight second with 4 pins. And Devin Moore has the team's fastest pin at 15 seconds in a tilt of all things.
Right. Devin Moore pinning people is crazy enough, but the fact that it was in a tilt and the fastest on the year is just seals the deal.
Right. So, that's your pin pool update. We're at $290 per pin on the year, so obviously still very shy of our goal of earning $400 per pin. But look for us to make a huge push here as we go into February and in March because we still have a good amount of time to chase that goal. So the best thing you can do for us if you have pledged is help spread the word. You can find our link on the link in our bio for Instagram. You can also find it on social media and our Newberry College Athletics website. So you can go on there, navigate to the pin pool section, and really just help us by putting the word out on your Facebook, texting that link to people so they can go on and pledge. And it doesn't have to be one of those crazy pins or pledges. It can even be $1 per pin. Everything that goes towards that goal helps.
Right, absolutely. $101 pledges, pretty much gets us there. So, like Coach said, doesn't have to be any massive pledges, but friends, family, anybody who supports the program or would like to support the program or would like a way to support the program, send them that link, and that's a great opportunity for all those people to help help us do what we do and help us to support these young men who are out there busting their butt for Newberry College.
Yeah, and along the pin pool, I didn't have this on my notes to talk about, but in case this is your first time tuning in, that those funds really do help supplement our annual operating budget. And this year, we're super excited to have used last year's pin pool money to purchase a new mat that we've been talking about. I'm super excited because we got notice from Resolite that it will be loaded on the truck on January 23rd. So that's supposed to be en route here next week. And the only thing me and Coach got to do is figure out a spot to let it cure for a week on each side. So that's kind of
easier said than done.
Yeah, easier said than done, but good problems to have.
Absolutely.
Thanks to all of our pin pool members. You can find names of each person who's pinned or pledged at each level on our website, but we really appreciate your support. Moving on, it's funny because we were talking before we started recording. Coach was like, man, we can't keep going through these episodes talking about how we're developing, things are getting better, we're getting better every episode. And I am finally excited to say, we've moved up from number 7 in Super Region 2 to number 3, so there is some improvement.
Yes, I think some of these things that we've said episode after episode, which is true, we're not just, we're not trying to put lipstick on a pig with saying that, but it has come off the same, and that's kind of what we were talking about before. But, some of these guys who have started getting over the hump that we've mentioned, they're now doing so consistently to the point that they're getting recognition and respect, which I think is huge. That's ultimately a big part of it. At the end of the day, they got to show up at the regional national tournament and show that. But in the meantime, it is nice to see some of those guys popping up in the rankings. And from a results standpoint, where earlier in the year, I felt like so many times we were saying, might not have had the best day, might not have had the results we wanted, but we saw this improvement. Now we're starting to see the results in addition to the improvements. So, the wins are picking up, and that's nice to see. Yeah. And the pins.
Right.
The pin pool members, we finally got a few.
Yeah. So, no, it's definitely been an exciting start to the new year. And you mentioned those guys, some of those guys that we've been talking about. Well, hey, the result wasn't there, but we like what we see. And Dayton Fields being one of those guys. The new rankings came out, and not only is the team ranked 3rd in the NCAA Super Region 2, but Dayton Fields is ranked number 1 at 174 pounds. So, shout out to him and the hard work he's been putting in. Not only ranked number 1 in our region, but also is finally cranked the national rankings, and he comes in at number 20 on the open match rankings. And another one of those guys being Devin Moore.
Right.
He comes in at number 19 in the country. And this, we'll talk about his region ranking, just speaks a little bit to the depth of 49 in our region, because while he's ranked number 19 in the country on the open mat, he's number 5 in our region.
Right. So, he'll have his work cut out for him at the regional tournament. But as far as business of late, it's been business as usual for him. He's one of those guys. Last year, I felt like we talked about that a lot. He's about to turn the corner. He's making these improvements. Well, he sort of came out of the gate kind of where he left off. So he was already made those improvements, had already basically turned the corner. And apart from maybe knocking off a little rust early, he's been one of those leaders and one of those guys who's led the way as far as getting those results and putting all that into practice in competition.
And so consistently, he's been so consistent.
Absolutely.
I mean, at national duels, which is just as tough as the Midwest Classic, he went 4-1 on the day. Lost the really tough one to a former Super Region champ who was down a weight class. And I'd love to get that match back. We finished that match really trying to punch that kid in the face. And so, I really like what I'm seeing from him.
100%. I think he not only did he wrestle well there, but it wasn't stealing matches. In fact, the one he lost, I kind of felt like the guy came out of the gate early and jumped on him in just a somewhat abnormal fashion. I think that's one that in a sense they kind of stole from us. I think he's a couple tweaks, a couple seconds away from finishing the day 5-0 there.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not like the kid was a slouch either.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, just to give you guys a quick brief of where we stand in the region rankings. So, like I said, we're number 3 behind Lander and Pembroke at number 1 and 2. But Zach Shoup comes in at number 5 at 125 pounds. We also have Josh Blatt, who comes in at number 3 at 141 pounds. Like I said, Devin's at number 5. We have Nolan Wheeler, who slides in at number 6. Although we will be moving up because we just had a head-to-head win over Noah Koronsky from Coker. I'm sure I butchered your name, Noah, if you're listening. But we have a head-to-head win over him in our most recent shutout when we went down to Hartsville. Also at 165, PJ comes in at number 5. Like I said, Dayton's number 1 at 174 pounds. Chris Walton comes in at number 3 at 197 pounds, and D. Rice is at number 3 at heavyweight. So that's our region rankings individually and as a team. And you can look to see us continue building on that because the guys are looking really good right now. Next, moving on, I want to remind everyone that registration for our 2023 summer wrestling camps are open. It's going to be June 17th through June 23rd, and we got 3 different camps rolling through that time. Coach, you want to tell them about them?
Yeah, so we'll start off with Takedown Elite Camp. We'll roll into our Tough on Top camp. Same order, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that is the order. And then we'll finish up with a team duels competition camp. So a few of those campers who either came with the team for one or both previous camps will stick around. But if you're an individual camper whose team is not coming, you're welcome to stick around, and we'll kind of farm you out to a team that might need a guy your size, or maybe even make a house team if we got a lot of those guys. So lots of opportunities to come compete. We're going to add a beginner component this year. So, like let's say, for instance, Takedown Elite Camp will have showing a little bit more advanced technique to the bulk of the guys. But if you're a first, second year wrestler and maybe that's a little above your head still, we'll have a coach leading a group at the other end of the gym, taking those guys down there. So if you're a parent of a younger wrestler, or a younger wrestler that maybe you've seen camps in the past that didn't quite tailor to that age range, or maybe if you're an advanced wrestler or a parent of an advanced wrestler and you think maybe it's going to be a little too basic, we are going to kind of split things up, so that shouldn't be a problem for either group this year, and hopefully give everybody a even slightly better time at camp experience here, because we got a lot of great feedback. But that's one thing that we sort of identified as a way that we could maybe even elevate it a little bit further.
Yeah, absolutely. And that registration fee does cover lodging. It covers meals in the cafeteria. And so in a way, it really is like a day in the life of a student athlete too, for some of those juniors, seniors, sophomores that might be looking to wrestle in college. Not only do they get to come improve their technical aspect and get matches in, but they also come get to see our campus and the great things we got going on around here. So please spread the word. We're looking forward to another great summer of camps. But now I want to jump into the competition recap. Obviously, last episode we talked a lot about the Midwest Classic and how tough of a tournament that is, and I'm proud to say we had a really strong showing out there. It was a field that has 17 ranked teams in the country. 76 of those wrestlers from those teams were ranked in the national rankings, and 5 of the wrestlers at each weight class were ranked number 1 in their respective weight classes. So I just want to say shout out to our guys for going out there and putting up a fight in fields and more, making it to the round of 12, knocking off some nationally ranked opponents. In doing so, really was impressive as well.
Yeah, normally you see teams go out there and they have a few wrestlers who do really well, and we didn't necessarily have guys doing really well, being in the finals, placing high or whatever. But everyone showed up, and I'll kind of leave this hopefully as the tail end of our. We've seen positive results as far as making adjustments, getting better, improving on some things. We saw a lot of that there. So the entire team wrestled kind of well, So like I said, we didn't have any placers, didn't have any guys, in the finals or winning it, which is a little disappointing. But on the flip side, there was no one who I was disappointed with their performance individually. We had a lot of guys wrestle really tight matches against nationally ranked guys. We had guys knocking off, tough opponents. We had guys who were winning a couple matches who maybe a year ago went 0-2. So lots of good positives to build on, and I think it was the perfect way to kind of end the first semester and send everybody home for a week before we came back and got back to work.
Yeah, and well, at the end of the day, there's something to be said about development, right? Like I was telling Mikey before we started rolling the podcast, our initial lineup on paper, we had a returning national qualifier at 25, 33, 41, 57, 65, 84. And of those 6 returning national qualifiers, we had 2 All-Americans, right? So on paper, our lineup looks very different than what we projected at the beginning of the year. And so it's created an opportunity for a lot of our guys who weren't necessarily our number ones. It's an opportunity for some of our number twos and number threes to step up and get it done for the team. And they really have been stepping up, and I'm proud. But at the end of the day, there's something to be said for development and the time it takes to develop. And that's just kind of where we are right now while we battle through some of the stuff off the mat that we're dealing with and some of the injuries. And so shout out to our guys, because the proof is in the pudding. As we continue to get through this recap, I think you'll see that with some of the results that we've been having.
100%.
And Coach mentioned, knocking off ranked opponents. So at Midwest Classic, Hunter Haven of Limestone was at 174 pounds, and at the time he was ranked 12th in the country when Dayton Fields beat him. And also, I want to point out Devin Moore. He beat Tommy Nichols of American, who was also ranked number 17th in the country at Midwest. So that was strong showings for them. And like you said, we went home. We had a chance to rest, feel better before we came back, and we defeated King on January 3rd right here in our gym. It was good to get that win back, you know what I mean, after they kind of took it to us when we went down to Bristol last year. And obviously been fresh off of leaving. That felt good to them, but it definitely felt good to me to get that.
Oh, absolutely. And it was reassuring to me to see, not only did we not really miss a beat going home for Christmas break,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't come back and sort of fall into some Christmas holiday lull,
Right.
But we showed up ready to wrestle. But our guys showed up that night, and we kind of made a statement.
Yeah, absolutely. 36-14 against a really solid King team. I mean, they have some really good wrestlers on there. And, yeah, I mean, they were down a couple of their top guys. Like, I really wanted that match at 149 pounds against Dimitri, who is ranked ahead of us in the region. I was really hoping we got that match in at 74 against the Dallin Ewert kid. But both of those guys were out. And as we know, as well as anybody, stuff happens. So it's like, I wishing them the best. And obviously want to see them a little bit later in the season. But still proud of our guys for getting it done. And so a couple days later, we drove down to Louisville, Kentucky Expo Center is where we competed for national duels, January 6th and 8th. And we finished 10th. And en route to finishing 10th, we were able to upset the number 24 team in the country, 33-10. That was Ashland. And then we were able to upset the number 14 team in the country, which was Fort Hays. And we beat them in a tightly contested battle, which was 20-19.
Yep. And, we opened up the day against Kearney, had a rough showing there. But it was one of those Pembroke-esque situations. The team score didn't reflect how tight the bouts were. I was proud of the way our guys battled in a lot of those matches, but to see them bounce right back, knock off Ashland, and then after a match that really, I think, Indy kind of stole from us.
Yeah. I mean, we were 5-5.
Yeah, we split the bouts 5-5, and they really stole one from Blatt at 141 that would have given us a 6-4 advantage in bouts and flipped the team score into our favor as well. So they were able to pick up bonus points. I mean, they certainly did what they needed to do to win that one, but kind of felt like they stole that one from us. But to bounce right back again and knock off Fort Hays, like you said, before facing a tough McKendree team that I think probably had a little bit of bad taste in their mouth from last year.
And,
So
that was one of those ones where I think McKendree's just a little better.
Yeah, especially especially then this was sort of in route to us kind of putting it together, and again, I think we have now. We finally put it together. So hopefully you're not going to hear too much more of us saying that whole well, didn't get the result we wanted, but no, that one we were still kind of getting there and starting to, and then in the last couple events, I certainly think we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I put just writing down thoughts. I mean, the Kearney match, they're the defending national champions, first of all. So, we knew we had our work cut out for us going into that. But honestly, it was one of my favorite matches of the season because the guys really did display a lot of those really critical intangibles that you need in order to continue developing. Like the grit was there. Like you said, even though on paper we lost, a lot of the bouts, but at the end of those matches, that last minute, those last 30 seconds, we were pushing the pace. pace. We were breaking those guys, and it was a matter of, like, we just need a little bit more time on the clock type deal. And so I think them being able to see where they were individually against some of the toughest guys in the country is really has what boosted us, even though that was a loss. I mean, I think seeing how close we actually are to being where we want to be, I think is what's given us that push to have such a good stretch of matches here.
I absolutely agree. I think it's you said grit, and to me, that's one of those words that I think some people have different ideas what it means, but to me, it's grit is that combination of physical and mental toughness, and that's really where our guys, finally started to show that, and that confidence you're talking about from hanging, like, I'm only down by 3 to, the number 4 guy in the country, and he's breaking. If I push the pace, I could pull this off, and things like that. I think that really is what gives guys a lot of confidence, and our guys really showed a lot of that match.
Yeah, and certainly we've been doing that lately. Just a couple notable performances from national duels, like I mentioned earlier. Devin Moore going 4-1 on the weekend, super impressive. And then Rice at heavyweight. Dayton Fields at 174 pounds, Wheeler at 157 pounds, Blatt at 141. They all went 3-2 on a really tough weekend as well. And then shout out to John Parker, who went 2-1 on the weekend, who's kind of been a floater for us between 184 and 197 pounds, going out there and beating some really good kids. We'll get to it, but against Limestone, he just defeated the number 2 kid in the region at Limestone, and is he our 84? You know what I mean? Like, just kind of trying to figure out what we're doing there. He's really talented and really one of those guys that I mentioned in passing that's developing and stepping up and getting it done for us.
Yeah, he's been in the starting lineup all year, but has basically, on paper, kind of, I guess, been a backup. But if that's what our backups look like, I love it, because we've got 3 starters at those 2 weights is really what it boils down to. And so he's a guy that I have the utmost confidence putting in at either of those weights, and feeling really good that he's going to get it done. So shout out to him. And again, that's not a knock on Zabrandon or Chris, because like I said, like it's a 3-headed monster we've got there, and I'm about it.
And if you watch them wrestle in a room, it makes sense.
Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense why iron sharpens iron at the end of the day, and there's a lot of that going on when they go live.
They get a little chippy.
Yep. That's a nice way to put that. So yeah, it was a good match against out at National Duels, and then we traveled to Hartsville, South Carolina for Coker, where we had our first shutout since. Thank you, TJ. February 15th of 2020.
Yeah, been a couple of years.
Yeah. So we defeated
almost 3.
Yeah, almost 3 years. We defeated them 49-0. And scored bonus points in 4 of those bouts.
Yeah, that was huge. Shutouts are always good, because it's a goal. If you're wrestling a team that's maybe not your caliber, it's that extra goal, to shut out a team, and for the guys to show up and do so. And again, it was one of those kind of like, we wrestled pretty well at Midwest. It was nice to come into the King match and show up and see that, okay, we haven't fallen off, we haven't missed a beat. It was nice to go out in national duels and then come back home, sort of a different setting, different energy, different atmosphere, and still be able to answer the call. So it was great to see the guys respond to that, and it seems as though they've just kind of continued to build on it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the matches I was kind of nervous about, just because they have a head-to-head win over us, was at heavyweight. Devin Rice wrestling the Hamilton Cooper kid, who beat us in our gym last year. And then, obviously we dominated him twice at regionals, but still coming off a season, maybe having a chip on his shoulder from losing when he was already down. You know how it is at regionals when you're not going, and then you got to go wrestle. Maybe just not being in the same mental state that you would be in a dual meet setting, especially when you have the opportunity to go and knock a guy off. I was like, I expected him to come out a little hotter.
Yeah, and I think right out of the gate he really tried to, but D. Rice has leveled up, and we've talked about that all year, and I think he figured out pretty quick that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, and it was interesting at 165 too, with PJ going back to Coker, obviously transferring to us at Newberry from Coker. I think he was excited to go and show some continued improvement from his time there, and he left on good terms. He simply just graduated and wanted to pursue his master's. That's why we got him, but it was cool to just see him go back and have fun as well.
Yeah, and it was funny walking in the gym. The light poles all have various banners on them. The light pole closest to the gym entrance is a poster of PJ.
Yeah.
So he's walking in and taking pictures of himself in blue and gold, but he's in scarlet and gray now, so it's all good.
Right. So next up, we traveled to Emory, Virginia, to wrestle Limestone and Emory and Henry in a tri meet, the wins kept rolling for us. We defeated Limestone 36-3, and we defeated Emory and Henry 53-3. So that was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun that night. The Limestone duel, I'll give them a lot of credit. The score, team score was a little lopsided based on the competitiveness of the individual matches. I think it was we were kind of
we scrapped for that one.
Yeah, it was a UNC Pembroke situation where we wrestled that duel really tough, but they just kind of kept winning all the bouts and put it on us team wise. But a lot of those bouts were really tight. PJ was one. He had to really battle back late, get a couple late takedowns to come back and steal that one. Like you said, John Parker, actually that one wasn't that close. He wrestled really well and knocked off the number 2 guy in the region. But a lot of those guys wrestled really tough, wrestled, some hard fought bouts. I think Nolan Wheeler, he tweaked his knee a little bit, but I think with 15 more seconds he wins that one too. Right. I mean, talk about grit, for a guy to get his knee banged up and give up a couple big points early to come back and give himself a chance to win a match, that was huge.
Right. He literally looked at me and said something concerning enough for us to want to pull him, like at that moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not, hey, let's wrestle through this. Like, hey, man, we need to maybe live the fight another day type deal. But he was like, no, I'm going to try it. And, yeah, that dude's tough. He's one of my favorites to watch. And so other notable wins from that night, I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention Josh Blatt, who isn't in the national rankings yet, but he definitely knocked off the number 17 kid in the country in Pierre from Limestone. So that was a fun match to watch as well.
Yeah, and that was another one that really wasn't close.
No, we took injury time when he hit that crazy mat return.
Recovery time.
What's that?
Recovery time. To be fair, it was illegal slam.
Yeah, it was
and it was.
Yeah.
I'll let you know if it was a little iffy. That one was not.
Right. So yeah, the guys were going back watching it in the cafeteria. It was nasty. To the point when I walked out there, I was like, man, is he done?
Right. It would have been 6 though.
Right, they would have been. but either way, he battled back and he beat a really quality opponent in Pierre from Limestone. And like you said, it was still tightly contested enough to where I feel like when we wrestle him again, we're still gonna have to be on our A game.
Yeah.
It's not like he's gonna be thinking, well, I just have no chance. So, and a lot of those matches were like that. And we're always up for the challenge. But super proud of Blatt for getting that one done. And we'll get into it a little bit in the preview with Emmanuel. But he's gonna have the opportunity to continue to show where he's at because the 41-pounder from Emmanuel is also nationally ranked. So
right, and shout out to Dayton Fields. Although we already mentioned him beating Hunter Haven from Limestone at Midwest.
Double down.
It's tough to beat a really good guy twice, and he did so. And honestly, wasn't at his best. So to know that not your best is still good enough to knock off these nationally ranked guys, that's definitely got to be good for your confidence, and certainly good for a team and rankings and all that. But for the next one, knowing that you've lost to a guy twice, that's got to kind of get in your head a little bit.
Right, and going into regions, I mean, that helps. That's the number 2 kid in our region. Dayton's number 1, and we have 2 head-to-head wins over him. So at 174 pounds, obviously we're feeling good there.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, and that Limestone match, 36-3. Obviously, we only dropped 1 bout. Bonus points were scored though in 5 of those 10 bouts. So definitely a dominant win. And then Emory and Henry, 6 of our Wolves won their respective match by pin. So another dominant showing against a team who, let's just keep things in perspective. They're a new program. Last year, I think, was their first year to go ahead and recruit and try to fill a roster, and this is their first year kind of getting thrown out to the Wolves, no pun intended. But no, I mean, I just want to keep that in perspective, and that's something I said to the guys too. I mean, don't never get too high on your highs, too low on your lows type thing. They're a young team, and we did what we were supposed to do. It wasn't like we weren't supposed to go out there and dominate. So proud and always good to win, but keeping it in perspective.
Right, and it's one of those things. Like I think Coker's probably a much better team, but we shut Coker out and didn't shut Emory and Henry out. So just little things like that I do kind of think help keep in perspective for us. But yeah, the guys, they understood the task. Yeah, that's for sure. They went out, and where we only put 49 on Coker, even though we lost a match, we found a way to get more bonus points. Mm-hmm. And so with 9 wins, we were able to put 53 points up where we only put 49 up with 10 wins. Right. So, even in that sense, our guys went out and didn't just take them lightly and just show up to get it done. They really showed up to prove a point, and get better.
Right, absolutely, and it's crazy to think that wraps up our conference competition on the road. I mean, our next 3 matches in the conference are all going to be at home, which is a good thing. But it's just, the season's flying by. Like,
Right. Yeah. It's weird too because I was looking at some schedules, just comparing other teams in the conference earlier, and there's teams that still have 5 and 6 conference duels, and we've only got 3. That seems wild, but
that is
a
wild.
couple of them are tri meets and things like that where they'll kind of catch up real quick. But still, I thought that was crazy that we're so much further through our conference schedule than some other teams.
Right. And so while our overall record is 8-4, our conference record is what, 6-1.
I think, yeah, I looked at
Yeah,
earlier.
our conference record sits 6-1, so looking pretty good. And honestly, obviously, we have our eyes still set on a conference championship. All isn't lost there. We got to get through a really, really tough Lander team. They came out today ranked number 2 in the country, but I feel like we match up really well from them. And I'm excited for the challenge. And if things go our way, on paper, if they defeat Pembroke, then that opportunity is open for us to capture another conference championship.
Right, and RC's done a great job there. Hats off to those guys.
Yeah,
they're doing a great job. But just to for perspective, those rankings they've kind of shifted more to tournament rankings. So they do have a great tournament team. They've got some individuals who are highly ranked. But like you said, as a team, I do think we match up pretty well with them. They've got some hammers where we've got guys who are really solid or hammers, and we've got some hammers where maybe they're not as solid, but yeah, it's a matchup that I think is going to be, if nothing else, really fun to watch.
Oh, it's going to be entertaining for sure, and we also, I feel like, have a little bit of advantage with it being at home. Eliezer is a tough place to wrestle at if you're not Newberry, so school's back in session there. It's going to be packed to as much as it can be packed, and I'm excited to wrestle and put on a show for our crowd.
Oh, for sure, but I do think it's important. We don't need to overlook Emmanuel because Lander's not next on the schedule. Emmanuel is, and that's
good point.
That's the one that our guys do need to make sure they show up for.
Yeah, one at a time.
Because Bryce is going to be, Bryce has done a good job. He's going to be bringing a team that's hungry, and if we don't show up to that one, we could go home real upset.
Right. We will be real upset. And yeah, like you said, I work with Bryce at King. Tremendous technician, one of the best technicians I've ever worked with. Super passionate about the sport. So obviously Emmanuel's going to be really well coached, and I'm glad you said that. We definitely can't overlook them. And if you are in town, we wrestle them here in Eliezer too on Monday, January 23rd at 7 p.m. So if you're around, please come on. We would love to see you and come out and support the Wolves. So
yep, and Lander is February 1st.
Yep, February 1st at 7 o'clock here in our gym as well. So mark your calendar, circle those dates. But moving on, let's get into this interview with Chaz McLaughlin.
Yep.
All right. I mean, we were joking because it's like for the longest I didn't know how to say his last name, and I always just trip over his last name. But getting into this interview with Chaz, he was a former teammate of both me and Blanton's back in the day. Just an awesome guy, doing really great things in the state of South Carolina with the wrestling club that he started. I don't want to give too much of it away, but I think you'll really enjoy this interview. It's one of my favorites that we've done since we started the podcast. So let's get into it, Chaz. Well, I appreciate you joining the show, man. For everybody that doesn't know, this is one of me and Blanton's former teammates, Chaz McLaughlin, and super proud to have you on the show, man. Pumped you were able to make some time. I know it's 10:30 on a Friday morning, so thanks for making time to join us.
Yeah, man, glad to be here.
So let's start with a couple things. Tell everybody. So what years you were at Newberry and when you graduated?
I was there 2007 through 2011.
Okay. Gotcha. And what'd you graduate with? What degree?
I actually haven't finished my degree, but I plan on coming back.
Okay, awesome, man, awesome. Well, it's crazy because you've still been killing it, like in the I guess post college life, between competing, between running that club that we were just talking about, and all the other endeavors you got going on, which I'm super excited to get into. So, kind of let's put a timeline together. So you left in 2011. Kind of give us just like the Spark Notes version of the timeline and how things progressed for you in the professional life.
Well, I left Newberry in 2011, and man, I was in a very different place in my life than I was now, for sure. I was bounced around a couple different jobs, didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I got an opportunity to coach a high school team in Lancaster. Worked with Coach Leon Bower. He's been a pretty big coach in the area for a couple of years now. Really kind of cut my teeth on in the high school sports world. And a few years later, I had a opportunity to start a club team. I had somebody reach out to me from the Lugoff Elgin area,
Hey.
and and they basically said, "Hey, my kid needs some extra work. I have a couple guys interested. I have a gym in my garage. Would you be interested in coming by and just running practices a couple times a week?" So I started doing that, and man, it really blew up. All my guys ended up being really successful in high school. All go to different schools on scholarship. So I was like, man, this was really fun. Way less hassle than than coaching high school sports. Not having to really deal with team politics and stuff like that. Um, it was just my own thing, and that was really exciting to me. So I really kind of hit the ground running. Started doing a club in the afternoons after work. At this time, I was doing I think I was a well driller when I first started doing this.
Okay.
So I would go work all day, come home, beat kids up at night, and really, uh, really just started getting after it in the evenings with a couple high school guys, and it's grown and grown and grown. And here I am 10 years later, and it's now my full-time job. I run a gym here locally in Camden.
What's the name of the gym?
It's called KC Elite Training Center.
Okay.
Yep, and we have wrestling and boxing. Recently added a powerlifting coach that I've been training with personally, and man, it has changed the game for me. It's been awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. How did you come up with the name Valhalla? I'm gonna make sure. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So Valhalla is like basically it's Viking heaven, right?
Okay.
So the Vikings believe that if you died in battle, you would go to Valhalla and you would feast and fight every day. So everybody was bonded by battle, right? Everybody was trying to be the best, tried to be the best warrior they could be, so that they could all go to Valhalla together and fight all the time, because that's what they were about.
Yeah.
And I thought that was that was cool to incorporate into wrestling, because iron sharpens iron. If you have a really good guy in the room, but he has a terrible practice partner, the practice partner is the one getting better, right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%, man. And it's cool because you go from, like you said, just starting off at a pretty small capacity, and now it's your full time job. I know me and Blant had Jake Elkins on here too, who runs Ironclad out in Alabama, and same thing, it's his full time job. So I can imagine, being able to wake up and set your own schedule, and still, you're grooming the minds of the youth and guys that are coming along through the ranks to go and wrestle in college. That's got to be something, A, that you're super passionate about, and B, that you feel a good sense of fulfillment in.
Oh man, it's awesome. It's one of those things where, like, I feel like the universe is just telling me, hey, like, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you were meant to do, and everything is just kind of falling into place perfectly. Like, man, I couldn't have planned it any better. It's man, it gives me chill bumps, like, even thinking about it. I just know that I'm doing what I was really meant to do, and man, I love it.
Yeah, that's
At what
awesome.
point did you realize that you could maybe do this full time? I mean, because like you said, it started off you were running a practice for a guy and his kid and a couple buddies, and like at what point along that path did you think, okay, like I got a group, let's start a little club, let's make it a little something more official, and then down the line it's like, okay, maybe I can grow this, and then like you said, you just recently started going where that's your full time gig. So like, how did that evolve from, like you said, it started off as just a guy's kid in his garage to the point where now you got a massively successful club that you're able to work at full time, not have to have a regular job and this be your side gig?
Yeah. So I had three or four kids when I first started, right, in this guy's garage. It was Mike North and Noah North. Man, we started three or four guys in the garage, Those guys go back to, they all went to Lugoff Elgin High School.
And
They
for
were all
those who
hammers.
don't know, I gotta throw that plug in there. I went to Lugoff. Go D.
Well, man, they were all hammers for Lugoff. You know, they were all a couple time placers, couple time champs, and you know, people started noticing like, hey, why are these guys so solid? And they're like, hey, because we're getting extra practices with Coach Chaz, man. You guys need to check it out. So eventually, we couldn't fit everybody in Noah North's garage anymore. So I contacted Coach Ted Monroe at Lugoff Elgin. Hey man, you know, would you mind letting me use the mini gym twice a week? Yeah, sure. I don't care, man. You guys come in. You're just helping the program. Let's do it. So we started growing even more. Then I had, you know, Lugoff was obviously having success. You know, they were making it deep into the playoffs. I think they ended up getting runner up to, was it runner up? Anyways, they got really deep in the playoffs, and people were like, man, you know, these guys are really picking it up. Had a few people reach out from other schools, you know, from all over the Columbia area, really. So they started coming to practice at Lugoff with us. You know, it wasn't affiliated with Lugoff. They were just letting us use the building, which was really cool. Shout out to Ted Monroe for being really open-minded and trusting me in the fact that, like, hey man, this is good for the sport. It doesn't seem like that it's great for specifically Lugoff, but this is going to elevate the sport around us, and it's gonna pay off to your guys in the long run. And he really trusted me with that, and man, it's just, you know, it's just blown up, man. I'm blessed.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
it's cool because I know as me and Blanton recruit, you know, year after year, the amount of guys that we come across who have some sort of affiliation with Valhalla Wrestling Club, you know, it grows from year to year. I know you mentioned the ones you got wrestling in college. Now we were after one that ended up going to the Citadel, and so you know, you guys are definitely producing. So you know, that's a testament to the great work you're doing, man. Do you run it out of KC Elite? Is that where the home base is now?
So whenever COVID hit, they in 2020, so they shut down all the extracurriculars at the school. Um, so I had to figure out what I was doing. I wasn't just going to not wrestle. Like, man, I love it too much. I ended up getting a 10x10 and putting it in my garage and just doing some private lessons. When I had enough private lessons saying, hey, you know, we want to come work out. I was like, man, you know, maybe we should look for our own space, our own standalone space. So I got with another youth coach, Robbie Hitson. He runs like the KC Elite youth team. They're actually called KC Elite, and we kind of went in together, and you know, started this gym. And also a Hall of Fame boxing coach, Shelby Gross. He runs boxing on in one room at the gym, and we run wrestling on the other.
Gotcha. I was wondering about that, man. Awesome. And I guess kind of just give me some of the things you've learned. I want to shift a little bit to your personal life, just because I know you got some great things going along there too. But you kind of mentioned that you were in a very different space, you know, just in life when you left Newberry in 2011 and where versus where you are now. The name of the podcast is Pack Leader Podcast, and when we started, it was the vision was to basically bring guys on who were leaders when they were here, and or leaders right now. And I mean, you're running your own business, and certainly leading the charge for so many different kids from all over the state. So kind of just walk us through some of the things you learned from 2011 up until this point, be it professionally, be it personally, just like life nuggets and stuff like that, that kids listening and other coaches listening might be able to take something from.
Absolutely. Man, one thing that being at Newberry really taught me, whenever I came to Newberry, I was not a very good wrestler. I came from small town South Carolina. You know, I had 5 or 6 guys on my high school team, but I loved it, and I wasn't bad for 1A South Carolina. Right. I get to Newberry, and man, like adversity hits me, like I realize, man, I'm just not that good. I'm not nearly as good as I thought I was. Um, there would be weeks of practice where I wouldn't get a takedown at practice. I'm telling you, like at this moment, I'm like, I don't need to be here. You know, I don't belong here. I maybe I should quit. And then my teammates kind of like, hey man, you know, you have really good work ethic. You need to buckle down, bro. You can do this. You can get better. So one thing that being at Newberry taught me was put your nose to the grindstone. Like don't give up on your dreams just because you're not necessarily having success at it right out of the bat, right? Uh, embrace the grind. That's a big wrestling term these days. Learn to love how hard it is, and once you learn to love that, then you're going to have success. And I've kind of carried that with me throughout life. You know, I've ran to a couple hurdles. You know, kept my nose to the grindstone, and here I am now. I have a wife that fully supports me with you know, chasing my dream of growing the sport. Um, I'm surrounded by, you know, a couple guys on staff that have the same vision that I do, really elevating the sport and making kids about it. You know, um, so I would say that's probably the biggest thing that I learned from my days at Newberry. Like, just because things get hard, like don't give up, grind through it, and you'll come out on top.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that's easy to say until you're in the trenches. And I mean, we see it every day with our guys, whether it's they're battling injuries, whether it's the stuff that they're battling off the mat in their personal lives that nobody even knows about, whether it's something in the classroom. Like I said, it's just really easy to say that. And, everybody says embrace the grind. When it's tough, you got to keep your nose down and keep working hard. But like the ability to actually do that, I feel like is becoming harder and harder for youth kids and youth age kids just because they have so many ways out these days. So I think you're doing a huge service to that next generation just by teaching them that simple that simple truth in life that applies to everywhere, not just wrestling, but that'll make you successful in whatever endeavor you choose to go on.
Absolutely.
And one thing too, I mean, I think, controlling what you can control and handling what you can handle is a big thing. And it's easy, like you said, when you stepped in the room as a freshman, start taking some lumps, and it's like, man, I'm in over my head. To this day, like guys will go out on a run and come back, and whoever wins the run or whatever, me and Darrell look at each other and be like, he wouldn't have beat Chaz, whatever. Like
we say that often.
Like so, it's funny. We like you're still like the all time run leader, but it's that was something like hey, I might not get a takedown, but I can beat you in this 3 mile run, and like so instead of letting it sort of break you completely, you're like, okay, well, he's probably gonna get me in here, but I'm gonna get him out here. Like, handle what you can handle, control what you can control, succeed where you can succeed, and keep working at the other areas, but don't let other things fall off. Like you can control how hard you worked on a run, even though it might not be paying off necessarily, in the hand fight or in, top bottom out or something. That was an area that you went and excelled, and to this day are still, remember for, but I feel like having that mentality and being able to go push yourself and work hard in those areas is ultimately what got you caught up, in the other areas. And so just having that mentality and not letting it break you in any respect helps you stay strong in every respect. Excuse me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think, you mentioned quitting when it's hard. You mentioned COVID due to everybody. Like, you're trying to start a business, run a business, and then COVID hits. I'm sure there was some adversity you faced there too, just like speed bumps in the road and kind of same principle that sustained you throughout that time,
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I said, I felt like the universe was telling me, like, "Hey, man, this is what you're meant to do." Like we started hitting adversity. Man, the room that I'd been using the past 5, 6, 7 years, all of a sudden wasn't available anymore. Uh, it, for a lot of these kids, a lot of the kids couldn't really afford to pay a full membership. It was just like, "Hey, you want to get better at wrestling? Show up to this gym at this time." Well, now, like it was really hard for me to do that financially because I had to pay for a space. All of a sudden, man, I started making phone calls. Boom, hey, you need a space, like let's make it happen. I could do it for this extremely small amount of money that made no sense for the size space it was. Started looking for my own mats. I got mats donated. Like I didn't have to pay money for the mats. We found like 2 full-size mats from a college in Virginia. I think it was
Old Dominion, maybe?
Benedictine.
Okay.
Benedictine or something, Benedictine Abbey, I think it was called. They were getting a new room, and they put all of their mats on Facebook Marketplace for absurdly cheap. So we drove to Virginia and picked these mats up. So, I felt like when all these things hit, the universe was looking out for me like, hey, this is what you're meant to do. Go do it. And, I've just kind of had that. I've been fortunate to be surrounded by people that also feel the same way. Like we've kind of hit the ground running together.
Yeah, it's awesome to work with people who are like-minded, man. It makes your day-to-day, just a lot better, a lot less mundane,
Absolutely. And not on top of, just the facility and, making things happen, in a standalone business standpoint. Man, the wrestling game actually changed for me. I got hooked up with guys like Jeff Estrada down at Hilton Head. Man, really opened up freestyle and Greco for me. We coached together on some USA wrestling teams, like at the Cadet and Junior Duels, and taking some kids to Fargo. And man, some of this technique that he showed me was really blowing my mind. Like, man, why have I never thought of wrestling this way?
Yeah.
Man, we started training together. Went to the U.S. Open, and actually saw a lot of Newberry guys at the U.S. Open. It was sick. Saw Jake Elkins. I even saw Alden Eisenberg down there working for Float, and
he had a mean headlock.
Yeah, bro, that's exactly what I said. Hey, Jake, you see this guy? He will headlock you. Give him a chance. But man, it was awesome, and ended up winning the Masters division in Greco, getting second in freestyle, and remember, we're gonna try to make it like a yearly trip now. Take some kids.
And man, you won that, right? Just to be clear.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody knows that, because I wanted to that was on my list of things to get to. That's pretty cool, because obviously you're doing some great things coaching wise, but competitively speaking, just say that again. Run that by everyone again.
Yeah, we were. So Jeff was taking a group of kids to the U.S. Open. He said, "Hey man, they got Masters division. You can still wrestle. Why don't you go?" And I was like, "Sure, why not? Like, man, I wrestle every day. I wrestle for a living. Like, why not? why not just go try to compete again?" So, man, we were rolling freestyle and Greco. I was learning technique from him, going down to his practice and training to compete. Then I would come back and teach my kids what I learned all week at our freestyle and Greco practice. So, yeah, man, we started training, went to the U.S. Open, and ended up doing the thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. What weight were you at?
I was at 74 kilos, so it was about 172.
Okay, got it. Did you cut, or you just kind of like, I'm just go what I weigh?
Nah, I cut about 30 pounds.
Good Lord. Okay.
No, it was over the course of about 2 months. And shout out to Jeff. He kind of put me on like the vegan diet.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I never missed a meal the whole time. I ate my face off and lost 30 pounds and competed and felt great. And to this day, if a kid asks me, "Hey man, I'm having trouble getting some weight off, what do I need to do?" And I said, "Eat your vegetables. if it's fruits and vegetables, you eat as much as you want and go run 3 to 5 miles a day, and that thing's coming off."
Right. That's awesome. What was your go-to sources of protein though, like when you do that? Because obviously you still got to fuel your body.
Mostly like this is gonna sound really extreme. Mostly like beans.
Yeah.
Man, I ate a ton of beans. I occasionally would eat if I felt like I was kind of down. I'd eat a couple eggs, but I only had to do that like one time during the cut, and that was right at the end. But yeah, everybody always says, what about your protein? Where are you getting your protein from? And I said, man, all the things that you eat for protein, eat grass. Like they're vegan. So, you can still find a lot of things to eat that are relatively high in protein. You may have to eat a lot of it, but you could still find options to get that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of a plant-based diet in general. So, and me and Blanton, we preach the same thing to the guys, just, fruits, vegetables, and lean protein, that whole thing. So that's awesome. It's funny because BB's on a slightly similar diet right now. But for, it's the different reasons, blah, blah, blah. But you want to tell them what you got going on?
Yeah, I've been watching some podcasts and stuff, and they've been highly touting this the carnivore diet. So I'm kind of same thing but different. I'm going the opposite route. And eggs are sort of the one thing that no matter what you're on, sort of are universal. Because like that's supposed to be a whole creature. Like that's everything that you need to be a chicken. So like you just eat like chicken breast. That's just a muscle. But there's no bones or joints or arteries or all the other things that keep the bird alive. But eggs got all that in a sense. So
yeah, you're right.
But yeah, just kind of playing around with it, and I did it for about 2 straight weeks before we went on a trip, and I used that trip to kind of, enjoy, eating out and reset a little bit, and then once we got back, kind of been back on it for close to a week again. But my goal is to do a couple 2-3 week stretches, maybe add up to about a month, just kind of play around with it, see. But I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Like I eat my face off, and like that first about 2 weeks, I lost about 10 pounds and was like eating till I was uncomfortable at times. Just, like you give your body a select, portion, a select variety of foods and nutrients and things to pull all it needs from, and it's going to find a way to use all of it. And so Absolutely. You're a lot more efficient, and you eliminate certain things that might be like inflammatory or this, that, or the other. And again, I think sort of where people get in trouble is playing the middle. I think if you go all in one or the other, or whatever you commit to something, you're gonna see results.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meat and cheese only get old quick.
Say what?
Meat and cheese only gets old quick. I ain't gonna lie.
Hey, man, it would be hard to eat. Like even if you had steak, like steak is awesome, but if you ate steak 3 times a day for 10 days, 2 weeks, bro, that would be hard.
Yeah.
You get to a point where it's just like your body is just like I don't know if it's texture or what, but like you just take a bite and your body's like, oh, nope, more meat, don't need it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I don't want to.
I had to learn how to make. I'm making like tortillas out of like eggs and pork rinds and stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's fun too because it kind of gives you something to do. Like Darrell was talking about, not really like he would never start a diet or a program or something in the middle of like the holidays. And while every reason he has is valid, for me, it's like this is Christmas break. This is when like there's no students in school. My wife's working again. My kids are gone all day. Like they're back in school. So like we've got almost a month still before our school starts. So it's just something to do also. I mean, that was another reason why I kind of did it. Cause I mean, I wrestle every day. I'm a fit guy, but to shed a few unwanted pounds and to have a little something to do and maybe reset some things in my body and things like that. It seemed like a good time to try it. And also like, because I don't necessarily need it and I'm not married to the idea of it. If I start not feeling good, I'll just go back and eat regular.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it too because I mean, if it works out for you, we always get guys that come in that need to shed a few lbs. So it's like the more informed you are about it from experience, the more you can kind of point them in the right direction. That way. But yeah, man. So let's catch up. You mentioned your wife. You said she fully supports you and everything you guys got going on. What's her name and what's she do?
Her name's Jessica McLaughlin. She was actually, funny story, when I first started my club, I was working out in Noah North's garage. They had just moved here from Iowa, and her brother Jake Power, uh, who is now my assistant head coach at Valhalla, they set me up on a blind date with his sister. Like, hey man, let's all go bowling. I was like, yeah, man, I like bowling. Let's go. So I show up and they're like, oh yeah, hey, we brought my sister. This is Jessica. And they just set us up and ended up here we are years later, married, 2 kids, living in Camden, and it's been awesome. But
Yeah.
with her growing up in Iowa, she was really involved with the wrestling team at Fort Dodge, which is a big wrestling name in Iowa. You got guys like Drake Ayala, Brody Teskey, all these. It's a great program. So she was about it when we met. Actually, the first time I ever met her was at a wrestling tournament. So she really understands what it takes to be a successful wrestler, what it takes to coach well, and she's really supportive, man. It's been great. But she currently works for a fabrication company in West Columbia, doing like some quality control stuff. But man, they really take care of her.
Nice. That's awesome, man. And how old are your 2 kids?
I have a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and boy, girl.
So you getting a lot of sleep, is what you're saying?
Oh man, yeah, loads of sleep. But yes, it's they're both girls. Double down on the girls.
Nice. Y'all trying to have any more, or you settle for right now?
Nah, bro, I don't know if I can survive anymore. This is two kids is hard.
Hey, once you
But
get a certain number, you don't even notice that there's more anymore.
man, I'll let y'all have that. I ain't having no more kids. I love them to death, but man, infants are hard.
Yeah, I bet. Do you think if they wanted to wrestle, you let them get into the sport, get involved in the sport?
Oh, absolutely.
Nice.
And for a while, I was kind of on the fence about that. I didn't really know how I felt about him wrestling. But man, after hanging out with Jeff and seeing all the, his daughters are freaking hammers. Mm-hmm. Like Zayo and Jersey. I'm like, man, I want my girls to be like that. Like these girls are beating the crap out of guys. When we went to the U.S. Open, Zayo wins the her bracket in the U.S. Open. Jersey gets third, and like I want that for my kid. Like that's incredible.
Nice. So what you're saying is, if we had women's wrestling in Newberry, keep an eye on those two.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice. Well, cool, man. Last couple questions before I let you go. I always ask alumni the question, like, what are some fond memories, or do you have a memory that sticks out from your time at Newberry that was just like, super important to you in terms of being like an experience that kind of molded your thoughts towards life, or flip side, 100, on the other side of that, like just something that was hilarious, like a time that sticks out that was, super funny memory in your head.
Oh man. There's so many.
One that you can publicly tell.
There's so many.
We did this community service yesterday at the Living Hope Foundation, which is now it's the old Teak House, and we walked in and Blaine was like, "Yep, I remember this place."
Yep.
But yeah, any memories you got?
Man, so this is more of a serious memory. But I can remember one day out of nowhere, coach was like, look, everybody's too heavy. Everybody's making scratch weight tomorrow, or it's going to be game time, right? You got to make weight tomorrow. So the half the team is like, holy crap, bro, I'm so overweight. I'm like way overweight. So everybody's out trying to run this weight off after practice for the next day. So I'm running. I didn't have that much, fortunately. So I'm running, and man, I see this guy like passed out. I'm not gonna say any names because that might be bad. This guy's passed out like on the sidewalk, right? So I'm like, hey, bro, you all right? I get him up. He's like, hey, yeah, I'm good, man. I just got a couple more pounds. I'm gonna be fine. I'm just taking a little break. And my man is like, sleep, sleep in the grass. So I get him out. I was like, come on, man, let's make it back to the school. So we start jogging, and eventually another guy comes up, and another guy comes up. Everybody's trying to run these pounds off, right? Eventually we got two or three guys that meet us, and we all help the guy get back to the school. And I'm like, man, that's kind of what life's about, right? Like when I'm down and out, somebody comes by and says, hey, let's go, let's finish out, let's do this. And then more and more guys start coming back, and then eventually, like, you're a whole squad rolling back up, and it's not just you. Like, you got to surround yourself with good wees. Like, I saw this clip yesterday that really kind of stuck with me. You got to be surrounded by the right wees. My when I say we, some people may not be equipped to hold you up when you need it. But if you're surrounded by the right we, those guys are gonna be there for you and catch you, even though you don't. What am I trying to say? They're gonna be there to catch you no matter what. And I felt like that's one thing that Newberry Wrestling did for me. It kind of surrounded me with a bunch of like-minded guys that I'm still very good friends with to this day. I'm still in contact with guys that I haven't seen face to face in over 10 years, and I still talk to them every day. Guys like Riley Abbott or Dale DeBacco or Jake Elkins. Like, I talk to these guys all the time, and I think that's incredible. I feel like I made these friends for life, through wrestling.
Yeah,
man, it was really cool.
Yeah, no, that's a great story, man. I remember those days when we just be a little too heavy, and that it was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Say that again.
I remember one very well. Darrell was holding up in his room. We had to go get him.
Wait a second, man. We're not talking. Nah, but I appreciate you joining the show, dude. It's been awesome catching up. We follow you obviously super closely and everything you're doing with your wrestling club and in life, and just super pumped to see you having so much success, and that we consider you a wolf for life, man. I know obviously, like you said, you didn't quite finish up things here, but you still got that in process or in progress. But man, me and Blaine consider you to be an integral part of the program when you were here, and somebody that we're proud to call an alumni, even if it is in progress. So thanks for making time to join the show. And if you ever want to get your guys to a match or camp or vice versa, if you ever want us to come over there and work with the guys, I'd love to stay connected and help do whatever we can.
Absolutely, man. We'd love to have you guys.
Cool. Well, yeah, dude, good luck on the rest of the season. Like you said, it's kind of a slower time for you because, obviously high school season right now, but the spring will be here before we know it. And I imagine that's when things pick up for you.
Oh, man, it blows way up over the summer. Man, it's exciting stuff. And man, we'll be getting kids from everywhere, not just our, immediate vicinity. So, man, it's great.
Awesome. Well, take care, Chaz. We appreciate it, dude.
All right, guys. Y'all take it easy.
All right, man. Later.
Right. That was Chaz, everyone.
Yep. There is only one Chaz.
Yeah. Coach, what did you think about that interview?
No, I loved it. I loved having Chaz on. He's a great guy. He's always a lot of fun, always high energy, always positive. I think, we kind of touched on it in the interview a little bit. He's so much of that was evident then, and it's one of the maybe you didn't quite identify it or you didn't see how it was going to come to fruition. But, like we talked about, he was that guy that maybe was a little behind the eight ball technically from a wrestling perspective, but he made sure to win every run, and it wasn't close. No. Just little things like that he was always finding ways to challenge himself or challenge the other guys on the team. Well, you might beat me in this match, but you're not gonna beat me in this run. Anybody else who's got pride and wants to not lose at something, now I'm a bad runner, but I got to catch up to Chaz, even though I'm beating him up in the room or whatever. But yeah, Chaz is a lot of fun. And one thing that I think that he's going to be huge for is elevating our sport in the state. Yeah. We've got, a lot of these great high school coaches but a lot of them have kind of been around, and they've done a great job. They've developed the high school talent. They've created dynasties. They've created, quality programs. Sent some good wrestlers to college, things of that nature. But I think having Chaz as a young guy who's hungry and he's surrounded himself by other quality coaches who know what they're doing and what they're talking about, just as a small but young and very active group, I think they're going to kind of help elevate, because Chaz has wrestled in college where I know some coaches haven't, and that's not a knock on those coaches. I mean, head coach at Somerville, my high school, Daryl Tucker, he went to college to play baseball, a great athlete, didn't wrestle in college, but he's doing a heck of a job at Somerville. So again, that's not to knock those guys, but having some of these younger college wrestlers who are a little more recently involved in some of that process and who maybe are chasing some of these different goals and dreams like the freestyle and Greco circuit, world teams, things of that nature, I think is going to do nothing but elevate the sport. And Jeff Estrada that Chaz mentioned, has tons of kids who wrestle, including a couple daughters. Yeah. So, that's going to help grow it on the women's side as well. So all in all, Chaz is doing great stuff, and I think he's going to be great for our state in the future as far as wrestling goes.
Yeah, and we call it a Pack Leader podcast for a reason. I mean, he said some super insightful things that I hope our guys listen to the interview with him, because there's a lot that they could learn from him. He certainly is a leader now, and he's been a great example of how, experience is a great teacher. He mentioned on just that journey of growth he was on from leaving Newberry and where he's at now. He's just a tremendous guy, and we're super, super honored to have you on the show, man. So thanks.
Yeah, I think just to kind of put a bow on, I think he could be sort of the Jake Elkins of South Carolina.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think as of right now, he kind of is, at least the closest thing we've got. So, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks for joining us, Chaz. Next up, and we kind of got ahead of ourselves, but, before the interview, I just wanted to preview that duel with Emmanuel. Like I mentioned, Josh Blatt at 141 pounds, and that duel has the opportunity to knock off Josh Kincaid at 141 pounds. He's ranked in the country at, I believe, number 16 in the open mat. It's either number 16 or number 15, one of the two. But either way, he's higher than us. So we definitely got our work cut out for us there. But Blatt is another one who has been super consistent. They're a 1-2 punch, man, at 41, 49. And every time we were at national duels, if it didn't go well at 33, I always felt confident that we were going to be able to pick it up back at 41 and get it going, just because they feed off of each other's energy. Iron sharpens iron, and they have some good scraps in the room, and I love watching those two wrestle.
Oh, for sure. And it's one of those things too where, again, we've talked all year about this guy developing, this guy doing this, how ways the guys get better. Blatt technically is probably the highest level guy we've got on the team.
Yeah, technically.
And he was a freshman Super Region champ, but then he transferred, had a city year, was out last year, and so he basically has 2 years of rust. And so that's kind of where he's been lagging, but you're starting to see that rust falling off, and man, is he special to watch when it's clicking.
Yes, those some things are innate, and instinct is one of them, and that ability to just critically think in the moment is so impressive. Like, some guys are machines. I drilled it 1,000 times, I can do it. He's one of those guys where you might see him hit something in a match, you're like, I didn't even know you knew that. Right. What I mean? But it's just because it's so natural for him.
He just always turns the right way, or hips over the right direction, right, or whatever. So, yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch, and he's right on track with the rest of our team. And, again, we're still trying to peak at the end of February, beginning of March, or middle of March, but we're finally kind of there, and him starting to click on all cylinders is really fun to watch.
Yeah, and some of our other guys, I mean, like you said, again, I'm glad you brought that up. Emmanuel's going to show up. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wrestlers who are also ranked in the Super Region 2. So it's an opportunity for us to show up and hold things down at 125 pounds. They have Gavin Hayes, who's ranked number 6, just below Zach Shoup, at 133 pounds. They have Harvey Ridings, right up under the guy who's ranked number 6, Frankie Medina for King, at 141. I already mentioned the Josh Kincaid kid at 157. We already had a head-to-head with Gage Sheetley from Emmanuel at National Duels, but obviously, I'm sorry, not at National Duels, at Midwest Classic, but obviously he's going to be looking to get that one back.
And that's one of Dayton Fields' old teammates, is it not?
Yeah, it is. One of Fields' teammates from NEO. So definitely, like I said, he's tough. I think we gave up the first takedown in that one.
Yeah, he was a talented kid. Nolan Wheeler is just a lot for anybody to handle.
Right. For 7 minutes. It's
For
tough.
7, maybe not for 6 minutes, but for 7 minutes, he's a problem.
You better be ready to wrestle. At 184 pounds, they got Marquise Hill, who's ranked number 4 in the region. So he's going to be coming out hot. At 197, Micah Clemson's ranked number 5 in the region. And then they don't have anyone ranked at heavyweight. But if you go through and look on paper, they are solid and having good seasons as well. So we got to show up, Coach.
Yeah, like I said, Bryce does a good job. And last year he kind of got in there late. Wasn't able to do any recruiting, so he's had a whole year to get together, and you could see the fruits start to be realized. And we're kind of the same boat, but I think we're definitely well ahead of the timeline that Bryce is on. But yeah, they're going to show up, and we're going to have to do the same.
Absolutely. And then, like we already mentioned, Lander on February 1st, so make sure you come on out for that at Eliezer Arena. Just kind of wanting to move on to some other great things that are going on at Newberry College and within our athletics department. And Mikey and TJ, correct me if I'm wrong, but shout out to women's basketball for upsetting number 14. Lenore Ryan, ranked number 14.
Not anymore.
Right. They were ranked number 14 in the country when we beat them. I don't remember that final score. Do y'all off the top of my head? 63-62, so that was an exciting game.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see that one. And then men's won as well. It was another tight one. So
62-60, I think.
nice. So 2 great games. Shout out to both basketball coaches and both programs for holding it down. And that was a great day for Newberry. I think we collectively went 4-0 on that day on Wednesday. So
Yeah, well, you got higher energy coaches like Coach Tincher, Coach Taylor. That
Yeah.
I mean, they're fun to be around. Like we have fun being around them, but I can only imagine those kids have fun, but you could tell how much they want to show up and play hard for those coaches. So
absolutely.
it's fun to see that.
Yeah. So congrats to y'all. And just some other general news from Newberry. The college announced our fall of 2022 Dean's List on January 10th. And I'm proud, Coach. We got 11 wrestlers ranked on that thing or listed on that thing.
I don't even believe you.
Yes, we got 11 wrestlers made the Dean List. Ernest Allen, Bodie Boyce, Dayton Fields, Zach Hornsby, Timmy Decatur, Devin Moore, Andrew Reed, Zach Shoup, John Parker, Josh Smith, and Ben Valdez all made the Dean's List.
Guess who else made the Dean's List?
Who?
Campbell.
Hey,
4.0.
Congrats to Campbell, his daughter.
She's at Carolina,
Hey,
not here though.
Spurs up. Go Gamecocks. So, yeah, super proud of those. If you don't know, most people know what the Dean's List is, but it honors undergraduate students who have achieved a semester GPA of 3.5 or higher on a 4.0 scale. So our fall Dean's List had 454 students representing 30 different states, the District of Columbia, and 24 countries. And among the students on that list, 135 of them earned 4.0s. So.
And we have a lot of 4.0s too for the amount of guys we've got. We were looking the other day trying to put together some academic award information, and we kept pulling up the guys who we know have good grades, and it was like, oh wow, he's got a 4.0 too.
Yeah.
You expect to see like 3.5s and 3.7s. Like we got some guys doing really well.
Absolutely, and I think it's a direct correlation. Guys who get it done in the classroom often get it done in the mat too, and we're seeing some things start to turn in the classroom, and just like we're seeing them start to turn on the mat too. So super proud of our guys, and congrats to everybody, not just the wrestling team, but all the sports and all the students that go to Newberry for making the Dean's List. Congratulations.
And in a very similar related note, I don't remember if we mentioned this last month or not, but congrats to Zach Shoup. He's now a graduate student.
Yep. We congratulated him last month. It's funny because he keeps trying to get out of workouts. He's like, I thought alumni didn't have the condition.
Right.
It's like, you do. So, congrats to him again for graduating. And thanks to everybody for listening. We appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm excited. Next month, we're going to have Matt Oliver on. He's the head wrestling coach out at Huntington in Alabama. He's been on the coaching circuit for a long time, so I'm sure he has some fun stories. And not only from his time at Newberry, but from also, he was, a lot of people don't know, and I'm sure he'll talk about, he was Caleb Spears' former coach before Spears got here.
Right, yeah, Oliver was at Spartanburg Methodist before he took the Huntington job. So, we used to see a little more of him because he was, recruiting some of the same guys and at a lot of the same tournaments. Now he's Division III and in Alabama, so don't see him quite as often. But, he's got to have a whole mess of tales.
Yeah, absolutely. So excited about that one. Be sure to tune in next month.
Recently got married as well.
Oh, yeah, he did recently get married. So congratulations. Excited to hear about that whole journey, too. And if you don't follow us on social media, make sure you plug in and follow us on Instagram. You can follow our Facebook. We also have a TikTok now, so you can follow our TikTok, too.
Yeah, we don't run it.
Well, yeah, but we do have one.
Twitter.
Go ahead.
Twitter.
Yeah, we have a Twitter. So plug in and follow us on there. And if you don't have time to catch the podcast on YouTube because you're on the go, you can find the podcast on anywhere you find podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can also find it on our website as well. There's audio there too. So we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you next month.